So you have just picked up a brand new iPhone 16 Pro and now you are looking to record 4K 120fps Apple Log ProRes video with an external storage. This is Pulwtop's MagSafe SSD enclosure that is compatible with NVMe SSD. It also has USB-C power delivery pass-through capability, which means that you can charge your phone while connected to an SSD. This enclosure is MagSafe compatible, which makes using this with a MagSafe case on your iPhone seamless. It also comes with a handful of really thoughtful ports for audio recording, especially if you are a filmmaker. In this video, we'll take a look at everything to know about the SSD enclosure, talk about all the features it has to offer, and my overall thoughts. First things first, before diving into the video, Pulwtop did send over this unit for a review. However, this is not a sponsored video. They have no say in whatever that I'll be sharing in this video. Everything I say is of my own opinion. With it out of the way, let's dive right in. Let's start with the unboxing of what comes inside this package. We have the SSD enclosure right here, but let's put this aside for now and take a look at what's underneath. We have a few things: a short 13.3cm long USB-C to USB-C cable with reinforced sleeve suited for extreme bending angles. We have a thermal pad for the SSD for better heat dissipation, and a bunch of M.2 screws along with a screwdriver and some instruction manual. Lastly, here is the MagSafe SSD enclosure, and that's about everything that came included in this package. Now we'll take a closer look at the MagSafe SSD enclosure itself, which comes in only pastel blue color. The dimensions of this enclosure sit at around 60mm in width, 100mm in length, and about 10mm in height, and it weighs in at around 66 grams. The build on the SSD enclosure is made from ABS plastic, which is important to keep the weight down when attached to your phone. Now, taking a look at around the enclosure, we will start off with all of the ports, starting from the USB-C that connects the iPhones to the SSD, which is indicated by this logo. The USB-C port is rated at USB 3.2, which supports a maximum transfer speed of 10 gigabits per second. In real-world use case, sits at around 1250 megabytes per second. Then moving on to the right side of the enclosure, we have another USB-C port, and it supports up to a maximum of 60 watts charging depending on the charger's output rate. Moving on to the other side, we have yet another USB-C port, and this port is rated at USB 2.0 with only 480 megabits per second, which translates to about 50 megabytes per second, ideally used for audio recording equipment like a microphone. The audio jack beside it supports both the left and right channel and a mic channel if you are running a TRS audio equipment. So that's all the ports that are available on this enclosure. Now, where the SSD sits in this enclosure is behind the MagSafe connectors. There's an opening right here that you would have to crack open the lid like such, and here is the NVMe connector for you to insert your SSD. Here I have a 2TB PCIe 4.0 Gen 4 NVMe SSD from Figwatt, capable of much higher writing speeds at about 7350 megabytes per second. But this will be capped by the USB 3.2 rated speed at only 10 gigabits per second. This is Figwatt's FN955 NVMe 1.4 SSD, and installing the NVMe drive is rather straightforward. You align the pins right here, slot it in, push it down, and close up the case, and you are pretty much good to go. If you are using a 2280 NVMe drive, which is the one that I have, then you won't need a screw to go with it. You can apply the thermal pad on top for better contact with the SSD enclosure for heat dissipation, and as soon as you close up the enclosure, you are pretty much done. Now let's move on to the iPhone and try to start recording in 4K 60 in Apple Log ProRes. And as you can see, the phone will give out a warning that ProRes is not supported, and ProRes 4K 60p or higher is only supported when recording to external storage devices. So instead, let's set up the SSD external storage. If your NVMe drive is fresh out of the box, ensure that you have formatted the NVMe drive on your computer before connecting it to your phone, as most drives need to be initialized for its first time use. While we are initializing the SSD for the first time, let's quickly do a speed test along with Blackmagic's disk speed test to see if the transfer speed holds up is claimed at 10 gigabits per second. As you can see, we are getting an average about 1500 megabytes write speeds and a read speeds of about 900 megabytes per second second. Now, once your SSD is initialized, connect the USB-C from your iPhone to the SSD enclosure using the USB-C cable. Next, fire up Files app on your iPhone and you should be able to see the SSD appearing as an external storage. Once done, return to the camera app and you should be able to toggle 4K 60 and 4K 120 Apple Log ProRes video and start recording. You'll be able to see the remaining recording time depending on your SSD's capacity, which by the way caps out at 2TB based on Pulwtop's enclosure specification. Now you can enjoy 4K 60 or 120p recording or any other lower demanding video codec with this SSD as your external storage. The next thing to test out are the additional ports like power delivery and connecting an audio equipment. So for the PD60 charging capability, let's test out the actual charging rate from the SSD enclosure. So based on my testing, I can only get about 24 watts of charging from the USB-C enclosure. Next on is audio recording. I have a wireless microphone system from Ulanzi, which is the AM18, which takes in USB-C from the receiver. All I need to do is plug in the receiver via USB-C from the receiver to this port right here. And my phone should be recording audio via this wireless microphone. Now, fun fact, if you are not using it for audio, you can insert an SD card reader to the USB 2.0 Type-C port and access the files like a hub, which is pretty cool. Now onto the last available port on the enclosure, we have the audio jack that can be used for monitoring audio as well as using it as a microphone. And from my testing, it works pretty well. So here is a setup that I've made to house the microphone alongside with the grip on the side of the phone for a more handheld experience. We have the Rode Video Micro connected to the TRS connector, the USB-C to USB-C from the iPhone to the enclosure, and I added a MagSafe ring to snap onto another MagSafe accessory for quick release solution on this rig. I plan to break down this rig in a separate video alongside with some technical comparison on the recording formats and some audio recording tests and my ultimate on-the-go solution for backing up footages sometime in the future, so be sure to be subscribed to the channel to not miss these videos. So all in all, my experience using the SSD enclosure with the USB-C connected is quite pleasing. I get to easily mount and unmount the SSD via MagSafe. It is compact and easy to bring around. That being said, the Pulwtop's SSD enclosure currently goes for $60 on their website at the discount. If you're interested, be sure to check out the link in the description box down below. And once again, thank you Pulwtop for sending over this unit for a review. Personally, having MagSafe itself was the biggest win for me, knowing that this is not just a magnetic ring that you attach on a non-MagSafe SSD enclosure. Sure, I wish that the cable situation was actually cable-free, like a USB connector that doesn't protrude out that much, giving the entire setup a cleaner look, but this would have to do for now. I am looking forward to create more content using Apple Log ProRes on my iPhone 16 Pro, which is the best camera that stays in my pocket, and that also means that I'll be carrying around this SSD in my pocket. And that's basically it from me. I hope you guys have found this video insightful. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions or anything that you would want me to test out. I'll be sure to get back to you guys as soon as possible. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in. My name is Ken. I'll catch you all in the next one. Stay safe, peace out, and bye-bye.